Hey, good morning, guys. Time for our morning motivation. So, listen, I was thinking about how much the way we view ourselves is shaped by our experiences that we have had in our lives. And I know as a spiritual life coach and as a former full-time practicing pastor, that I have counseled, I currently counsel, and I've spoken to people that have experienced a lot of traumatic events in their lives. I even think about the idea that when I was 7 years old, that my father committed suicide, and how the fact that he was there, he had hung there, he had committed suicide by hanging himself, and he was hanging there for 7 days, I think, something like that. Well, anyway, his body started to what I called what I believe to say, I mean, really to make you understand, is to melt. And so his body wasn't viewable. So I remember going to the funeral, and it's still, I don't think at 7 years old that it really registered with me that my father was never coming back. And I remember walking up to the casket and hitting the casket, and I was like knocked on it, and I waved my hand like this, and I was like, "So long, Daddy." But it wasn't until I started to get older and I started to have relationships with men that I started to really feel the pain of not having my father in my life. And I didn't realize then, coming from abuse in my family and things that were happening to me as a child, that I didn't realize that it shaped who I had become. And it was so traumatic for me that I was really walking in post-traumatic stress disorder. And so I wanted to think about, well, I wanted to get you thinking about this morning about what happened to you that began to shape you in your mind and how you view the world, and really caused you to walk in this life from a negative perspective, because the pain of that event, the trauma of that event was so heavy that sometimes you don't even know that it's sitting always there in the back of your mind, waiting for something to sort of scratch it, to sort of wake it, to sort of bring it alive. And it's like, almost like, sometimes I remember dealing with my children after I had my first divorce, my only divorce. And there would be times that things wouldn't go their way, or they didn't like my discipline, and they would always say, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." And because they were living in trauma, so they grew up a lot of times, and I know you divorced parents can understand this, that they grew up a lot of times comparing me to their stepmom, or comparing how I parented to their non-parenting parent. So it was traumatic. I'm also thinking about the idea, and I want you guys to understand, that rejection is at the root of most forms of depression. That at some point in your life, if you have been rejected, like I felt rejected when my father committed suicide, because what that sent to me was a sign saying that I wasn't lovable enough, that I wasn't good enough, and that he didn't feel like his life had value enough to stay for me and my brother. So rejection became a thing that I knew. It became comfortable to me. When my first husband was abusing me, that was rejection. It was comfortable. When I was getting abused as a child, that was rejection. It became comfortable. And it wasn't until I met Jesus Christ that I realized that he was the only one that would not reject me, no matter what. I had a best friend that I grew up with, and she was my sister. And I think the spirit of jealousy got in. I don't know, but she rejected me, and it shaped my friendships. I became very confrontational at times, and I became very judgmental at times, because these things in our lives, they shape us. They cause us to react in ways that we are always on the fence, or we are always on attack mode, because we are expecting the rejection. We are expecting that thing that has happened to us recurrently in our life to surface some way or another, somehow or another, or in some form or another. Yeah, I want you to think about what has shaped your mind, what has shaped the way that you view life. You know, I talk and I tell you, I coach a lot of people that are high profile. And it's so interesting to me with some of the women, how they are so consumed with living up to a standard, or living a way that the public views them in such a way that they have to feel like they have to go by the standard of whatever their world says instead of being themselves. I see so much fakeness. And I don't know that I have within me the capacity to live that way. I think that's why I always rejected being what everybody wanted me to be. That's why my videos are normal. That's why you see me not dressed up and not looking perfect, because my world is not perfect. My life is not perfect. I am challenged often. But I use my pain and I use my experiences to help people build a mindset that says they matter, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, you can make it, you can take it, you can go through this situation and you can survive. I was thinking about Vanessa Bryant and I said, kudos to her. Here she is in her pain. She can't even privately have the pain that she wants, but she has to share her pain and her loved ones with the world. But she's doing it. She will break through the crying spell. She will break through all of the hurt. Even waking up at times, looking on social media where people are in ignorance, focusing on the one time her husband did something that was not good. But we all do that. We all detour from our purpose and we all mess up. We all have that little side of us that's crazy, that devil on our shoulder. Woe to the people that don't want to take notice of it and deal with that devil. I feel so sorry for the people that I know that are plastic, for the people that I know that live in a false reality of themselves. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I want to shout out my sister Shamika Lawrence. You know I love her so much, you guys. Because one thing about Shamika is that she broke the mold, I think, of what a Hollywood ex was like. I told her she was bigger than that show. I told her that she shouldn't have never been on that show because she was bigger than it. And she has made herself more than her ex's money. She's built her own kingdom, but I can tell you with a surety that she did that with the help of Christ. She is one of the most loving people that I know, and I've prayed to be loving like that. I think that I got it, but I look at her and I am always pulled up, not pulled down. That's another thing. You got to be careful who you're engaged with. If your friends are always finding something to attack you by, if your friends are always pulling you down and looking at the negative, then they are not your friends. You are just filling a void for them at the moment, because when they get in their element, they will show you that you don't really matter. Friends call friends. Friends love on friends. Friends check in. Friends don't have to be fake. Stop settling for the fake. Stop settling for the people because you want to fit into something, and deal with your ish. Deal with the ugly part of you, the painful part of you, the rejected part of you, the part of you that you find to be so low that you don't want anyone else to see because it's seeping out. The stench of you is smelling, and someone sees the real you, even though you're doing everything that you can to hide it. But I want to challenge you to let that boy, that girl come out, because that person is the person, believe it or not, that was rejected and alone, that people are going to love, that they are going to find something in you that they are battling with. And because you have made it, they will be stronger. And because you choose to be honest with your press, they will be better for it. You were created in God's likeness and image. Remember, Jesus went and conquered death. He went to the grave and slapped the devil on the head and got the keys for your sake. And that was an ugly walk. He was attacked when he lived in this earth in a natural form, just like you. Don't you ever think you won't go through something, but he rose again. In honor and in thinking of Kobe and Gigi and all the families that was lost, they are rising again, and we can look up and know that they are seated at the right hand of the Father, coaching basketball teams in heaven and giving God a smile because now they're in their heavenly form. Don't wait till you're in your heavenly form to love you. I want you to know I love you and love you now. Deal with your stuff. This is a spiritual life coach. Thanks for following me and thanks for listening.